Christian, and welcome to another episode of the Evolution of Survivor Strategy. Guys, I hope everybody's having a very good Tuesday. Finished the 37th season of Survivor, David versus Goliath. I'm only 3 seasons away from completing the Evolution of Survivor to this point. So, I'm curious to find out what, and then eventually I won't be doing my Survivor rankings. So, it's been fun to watch this show the past almost 12 months. It hasn't been 12 months yet, but I'm almost at that point. But it's been it's been a ton of time rewatching this show because I love Survivor. It's been one of those greats. And David versus Goliath was one of those seasons that was just as fun to rewatch as it was watching it live. So let's get right to it. So this season is David versus Goliath. So this is probably one of my favorite theme seasons they've done. Where, you had, we've done so many of these seasons where we did, brains versus brawn versus beauty, white collar, blue collar, no collar, heroes, healers, and hustlers. This is my favorite because it's best people. It takes the Bible, one of the most famous stories of the Bible of David, the underdog, and you have Goliath, the 9-foot giant, and who's going to prevail. And I like how you have these 10 people who are Goliaths in their natural life, and then you have these 10 Davids who are more of the underdog. And the thing that makes this season so fun to watch, and it's what I always say about a Survivor season, it's casting. This is one of my favorite casts they've ever had. And, there's so many great characters between, you have Dan, John on the Goliath side. You have Natalie, who's an early boot, but, she's hilarious at times and a really interesting character. You have Angelina, who is one of the most polarizing female characters we have seen in Survivor, probably since, I don't know, maybe Jerry Manthey or something like that, or Corinne. She's just such a great Survivor villain, but she has that strategy in there. And then you have other players on the David side. You have Davey, you have Nick, and then you have Christian, you have Gabby. There's so many great characters that makes this season so great to rewatch. So, the season, we have David versus Goliath. The weather is awful. You have a cyclone that evacuates all the contestants in the season. So, that's a little rough part of the season. You had one person quit, B, who basically she hurt her leg, and she just didn't want to risk any further because of risking her MMA career. And then you also have Pat, who gets medically evacuated in the first episode, which we'd never seen that before. Basically medically evacuated when they were on the boat on the way back to camp. And, that medical evac really changes the flow of the season because Nick probably goes home that first episode. And, Nick is the one that eventually wins, representing Kentucky really well, if I might say. So yeah, and then we get to the tribe swaps, and we're in these interesting spots. It's cool watching John play the mayor of Slamtown, and one of the great characters of Survivor history is definitely Christian. The way he talks and the way he's able to, when he goes on and on and on, and you can't help but root for the guy. So I'm gonna get right to the merge because, there is also the funny part with Angelina trying to get Natalie's jacket, but Natalie won't give her just such a great little moment of the season. All right, we get to the merge. We have 7 Goliaths, 6 Davids. Davids decide to wipe out one of their own. Angelina makes a mistake telling, forget what the girl's name, but they all vote her out. So then we get to the final 12, and the Goliaths are all sticking together, and you're realizing this is it feels like an old school Survivor season at times, because you have this one side, and then you have the other side. The Goliaths are just talking to Goliaths. They say, oh yeah, Davids, we'll hang out with you, we'll talk to you. Wink! And so, and then they find all these advantages, the extra, the steal a vote, the beauty idol nullifier. And also, I want to talk about little Dan for a moment, because Dan might get a lot of crap, but he found 2 immunity items, and that's hard to do. And so at the final 12, the Davids decide to vote for they're being told, oh yeah, let's vote for Angelina, let's vote for Angelina. And then you have the Goliath all decide to stick together to get rid of Christian because they believe Christian's just a huge threat. And Davey plays his idol on Christian, and then Dan's like, well, I gotta play my idol for my ally. And this is one of the most genius things of the season, was the minority vote split, which is one of the titles of this chapter of the evolution of strategy. We've seen majority alliances use the vote split many times, but we've never seen a minority vote split. So the minority was 3 people vote for John, 2 people vote for Angelina. If they play the idol for one person, if they're all going to put their votes on Christian, then we decide who goes home, regardless if. So it's a very risky move to do it like this, but that's what made the season so fun to watch, and it's just. It goes into the theme of David versus Goliath. It's the slingshot. I mean, the slingshot. It's a very inaccurate weapon, and that's when this happens. And in the next episode, Dan loses immunity, and they use the vote seal. They steal Allison. It was all a ruse to get Dan, and Dan plays his idol. But we introduce the immunity idol Nullifier. People hate the immunity idol Nullifier. Personally, I like the immunity idol Nullifier, because it prevents somebody like a Ben to just find idols to get to the finals. And also, the thing about the idol nullifier, it only works if you know the person has the idol. They all knew Dan had an idol. They were told that Dan has an idol. So if somebody like Ben, unless you play the immunity idol nullifier at Final 5, which we've seen it played twice, both played successfully. We see it in Island of the Idols. I'll talk about that when we get to it. And a lot of people hate that because it screws one player, but it's part of the game. And I like the idea of the idol nullifier because you have to know if a person has the immunity idol or not. If they don't have the idol, then it's whatever. But I just thought this was such a really cool. I thought the immunity idol nullifier was really cool when I first saw it, and I still really enjoy it. Okay, so then basically John gets taken out, Dan gets taken out, and Angelina, the Goliaths decide to vote for Angelina to show face to the Davids, and then it's over for the Goliaths basically to a certain point. But then David versus Goliath is over with as soon as Carl goes home, and I love Carl because Carl's just like, I'm here, Christian. You see, I want you to call me Godfather. And like Gabby's like wants to take out the Godfather Carl, and it's like so many great moments in the scene. I love Carl. I mean, I would love to see Carl come back, but the way he was so over cocky and everything, I mean, it made for such a fun little moments in the season. I thought it was great, especially her tension with Gabby. Gabby reminds me a lot of like a Hannah from Survivor Millennials versus Gen X, and I like. It's a very similar archetype of those two people. So they take out Carl, and then Gabby is like, I gotta take out Christian. Me and Christian, we're playing the same game, but he's gonna get all the credit because he's the man, blah, blah, blah. And so they just tried to blindside Christian. And Nick's ready to take out Christian too because he betrayed him. And the Mason-Dixon alliance is over. And that's one thing I really liked about Nick's gameplay. Getting a little more into Nick's gameplay is naming the alliances. It's such a big brother move, is naming your alliance, and to bring that kind of element into Survivor was very interesting. Him and Elizabeth, I believe that's what her name was, calling them the Thoroughbreds because they're both from Kentucky. Him and Mike being the rock stars. And then you have him and Christian being the Mason-Dixon. I thought it was a little cool part of the season I really enjoyed. But what also makes that move great is that they're all like, okay, Christian's going. But if Christian plays his immunity idol, Angelina, very underrated Survivor player. And maybe not underrated. I would love to see her come back and play another season of Survivor. I don't know if she would do well, but I think I'd be interested to see if she could come back for like a Cambodia or like a Survivor Second Chances again. If they ever do another Second Chances. I love second chances. I've talked about it so many times. But I think, like, she's like, okay, first, me and Mike, we'll vote out for Christian. if Christian plays the idol, we get rid of Gabby. And Mike, brilliant move on Mike's part, because Mike has deals with everybody, but he doesn't have a deal with Gabby. So if he takes out Gabby, then Mike's probably smooth sailing all the way to the finals, which he did, which was a great little moment in the season. And Mike, I mostly remember Mike from one of my favorite movies of all time, School of Rock. It was cool seeing him play in the season of Survivor. Like, I like it in the first episode where he says, some of my people, they want to win the Oscars. Yeah, you win the Oscar. I want to win Survivor. and so Mike was a very interesting character. We see the character so many times. The nerd character, kind of like Mike, between him and like David Wright to Rafe from Survivor Guatemala. I mean, we've seen this archetype so many times, and I think Mike, I don't know if he would be interested in playing again, but I would love to see Mike come back and play another season of Survivor. So yeah, and then also there's some other players. I mean, this season, like I said, Davey was such a interesting game player this season. And one thing I did like, once we get rid of Carl, the lines of David versus Goliath were so blurred, and it became what the season would be called, such a fluid gameplay. They didn't care who was on who. It didn't matter what color buff you wore. We're here to play Survivor, and that's kind of a theme going forward in the seasons of Survivor, going forward into even current Survivor seasons. So I mean, and then like I said, Davey was a very interesting player, playing that idol, finding the one immunity idol, and find the one idol and not risking his boat. And I like they brought in that one immunity idol, and it was only good for one tribal council. You could risk your vote. It was the Chris Noble idol idea, and he's just like, I can't risk my vote because I might need my vote at this point in the game. So it was probably a good thing he kept. I mean, he got voted out the next one, so maybe he should have tried to risk his vote. But if he doesn't, then he might have gone home at Final 7 if he didn't play the idol. So there's always risk playing in Survivor. And Davey's one of those guys that I would love to see come back play another season. Just like Christian, and then like Nick, and like I said, this season has so many great game players. Kara, I mean, everyone comes to play. No one takes it personally, and that's what makes this season of Survivor one of the funnest seasons to watch. And I could see this entire cast come back, and it would be a fun season to watch again. So, guys, not much to talk about the end gameplay. I mean, Angelina finds an idol. Nick wins the game basically in the end. The fire making challenge was still stupid, and I think the next season fire making challenge is probably one of the better fire making challenge. That and like Winners at War, I think, was a pretty good fire making challenge, but I'm just not a big fan of the fire making challenge. So guys, that ends this episode of the Evolution of Strategy. A very good season, one of my favorites. Guys, what are your thoughts about David vs. Goliath? Comment below, let me know. Tell me what your thoughts about the season are. Guys, if you like this video, click that thumbs up button, subscribe to see more, tell your friends about Easy Nation. Until next time, all too easy.